Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Redeemed Marriage Podcast. This is Rusty and Heather Bryant, and we are so excited to be back with you. We have a great episode in store for you today. We have been the last few weeks just kind of talking through the questions that some of the questions that might keep you up at 2 o'clock in the morning, especially when there's been betrayal and trauma and
or broken trust, any of those things.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just questions, it's just questions that you have because things are just maybe not what you expect in your marriage. And so one of the things that we have thought about quite a bit, because I know it's the question that most of these are questions that kept us awake at night. And one of those was just around the topic of physical intimacy. And it was something that I know both of us, we wondered, will we ever get back, or can we ever heal in this area, was really the main thing. And of course, those of you that listen to us on a regular basis, you know that our story is one of infidelity. And so lots of damage, lots of wounds there. And so today we were like, you know what? We know a little bit about this because we lived through it, but we don't know as much as some people. So we have a wonderful guest today, and her name is Debby Wade. And so Debby, we met at the Marriage Collective a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago.
So fun.
Yes. And so it was so great to meet her. And then we realized a connection, and just that made it even better. And so, and crazy enough, I don't think I even told you this, Debby, but I was on the Marriage Collective call, that the prayer call, and I usually get on there. There's other people that get on there. It's once a month, and I was talking about our retreat in Montana, and somebody said, "Hey, do you know Debby Wade?" And I was like, "Well, that's funny. She's lined up to be on our podcast in a few weeks." So this is Debby Wade, and she is a marriage and family therapist, and she's a certified sex therapist and sex addiction therapist. She has a practice that's called ACT Solutions, and it's called ACT Solutions at the Gathering Place, and that's another connection that we have because Montana. You are in Montana, and Montana,
my favorite place on earth.
Yes, and so we love Montana. So all kinds of connections, but more than anything, we are just so honored that you would take some time today to jump on here and help our listeners. And so here's what I want to do, because I know I already told you, I don't like to just read a bunch of stuff about somebody. I would rather you just tell us what you want our listeners to know about you. And so tell us about Debby and what your ministry is all about.
Okay, thank you. One, it is just such a privilege to be asked to be on your podcast and to visit with y'all. It was a delight to meet y'all at the Marriage Collective, and then just to recognize that we have so many things in common. So thank you. This is just a precious privilege, and I hope will be valuable for all of us today. But so I started a practice in 1999, and I was in the truly a Bible study on the travels of Paul. And I just prayed, Lord, if I'm to go out on my own and practice, I just didn't want to throw my name up there. And so he gave me from Acts, ACTS, the name Authentic Christian Therapeutic Solutions. So that was my practice in Texas, there in Grapevine, for about 30 years. And then we moved here 2 years ago. And so the name of our place here is The Gathering Place. So I'm Act Solutions at The Gathering Place. And I have a practice that I mainly work with couples or individuals who overcoming sexual betrayal, couples wanting to reclaim their sexual intimacy after betrayal. And then another area of sexuality, which I know won't be our topic today really, but I work with couples who they experience sexual pain. And so those are my two areas of focus. And I do work with individuals as well. And our main reason for moving here to Montana was so I could offer, I want to say intensives, except for in our field of therapy, intensives usually mean couples come when they're in crisis. And so I really like to call them marital intimacy experiences. Either couples can come individually as couples, or I do groups of couples coming, but the focus is on restoring their sexual intimacy. And everybody goes, you speak with couples together in a group on sex? And I'm like, yes, we do. And it is just so valuable and so powerful. And I love the work that I get to do. So, yes.
That is so great. Yeah. And what you are doing is such a need. And so.
And honestly, I wish it was something that we knew about 14 years ago.
Absolutely.
Because that would have helped us tremendously, I'm sure, to heal faster than we did in that area.
Yeah.
So I'm so thankful that you're here today.
And I know that a lot of our listeners, they're probably already Googling and looking you up and all that kind of stuff. And we're going to definitely, before we close out, we'll make sure that you let people know how to get in touch with you and find your information. But, in this day and age, people know how to do that just with a name. I mean, it's not really that hard. You just type in Debby Wade and you're going to find it.
That's right. That's right.
But it's a little scary, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, for sure.
It's good and scary. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Well, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, Debbie, let's start our time today with this question. After infidelity, what do you see as the biggest barrier to rebuilding physical and emotional intimacy?
Heather, that's such a good question. And you're right. I bet a lot of your listeners want to know that. Yeah. And, sexual intimacy just in general is very complicated and complex. And then I think y'all certainly know that the journey of healing from betrayal is very complicated as well. And so just to give permission to know this is going to be a complicated journey, recovering and restoring. Right. But I think the biggest thing that we need to learn in that is, when we think of intimacy in marriage, I see it as like a three-legged stool. And there's the leg of sexual intimacy, the leg of spiritual intimacy, and the leg of emotional intimacy. And so when we look at it, we realize that all three legs have been damaged when there's been betrayal. And so three areas that have to be healed in that. And we can't just focus, we want to heal the sexual first, or we've got to make sure the emotional's healed first, or no, the spiritual's way more important. We really have to look at it that all three have to be addressed together. Because we really can't have deepened sexual intimacy and restored if we've not restored the trust in the emotional intimacy. Yeah. And if we don't feel safe spiritually, it's really going to be difficult to feel safe sexually. Mm-hmm. So working on all three areas, I think it's significant, but that's what makes it feel so complicated.
That's really good. And we, when we do retreats and when we do conferences, those are really kind of the three pillars that we go through too. Mm-hmm. We talk through spiritual intimacy, emotional intimacy, which, and that's where we build in communication and that type of connection as well. And then the physical intimacy. And so that's right in line with the things that our listeners have heard us probably share over and over and over. So I love that you say it's really hard to do one without the others. It's they all have to be working in tandem with each other. Yeah. And so one of the things that I think everybody struggles with this, that has had some sort of betrayal or trauma like what Heather and I had, but just the thoughts that come into our head during intimacy. And how do you help couples to understand and to work through those moments without it being something that shuts them down or just that causes massive conflict in that moment?
Right. Well, one, I would want to start saying that we can't always guarantee that we won't shut down, but I think it's important to know that we can have some empowerment in what we do when that does happen. And this is why I think it's so important for us to recognize that we've got to look at it in that three-tiered distinction of looking at the emotional and the spiritual in helping to arm us in the sexual. So I'm going to use a passage that I just think is so important important to look at scripturally. I don't think all verses are about sex, but I think there's many that we don't think about that do apply to sex in our sexual relationship and sexual healing. But I love in Jeremiah 30:17, it says, "But I will restore you to health, and I will heal your wounds, declares the Lord." And I think we could take that, but I will restore you to sexual health and heal your sexual wounds. And so I think starting outside the bedroom in our mindset and in our thought process of us going spiritually, am I going to believe that? And then knowing that we can take our thoughts captive and make them obedient to Christ. So when we look at where we are mentally and where we are spiritually, how can we use that to show up sexually? So in those moments of coming into the bedroom, I think it's helpful for couples to learn to pray together outside the bedroom as well as inside the bedroom. There may be some phrases that couples will be willing to use together when we get to that point. You know, us going in and claiming we may have some difficulties, but we're going to anchor in together and we're in this together. I think for couples to be willing to have the thought, babe, you have the permission to stop this at any moment. Whether we're the ones that have been betrayed or whether we've done the betraying, you know, as you know, triggers can happen on both parts. And so to be able to have that permission, if we start an encounter and one of us needs to pause and stop, let's stop. If there's an intrusive thought, I think just to claim it, I've got to stop. I'm just having intrusive thoughts. If we can feel safe enough in that moment to be able to, will you just pray with me? Will you just remind me why you're here with me? Will you say some words that pour in and comfort me? And so I think just truly being able to stop in that moment and claim, this is an intrusive thought and I don't want it to be here.
That is so good. And we talk a lot about taking thoughts captive. And I've never once thought about applying that to our sexual life. And that is just so powerful to hear and to listen to. I've 100% have never shared this on our podcast, but I can remember in those first, few months when we were trying to establish intimacy again, physical intimacy, there were several times that Rusty would just have to say, hey, this isn't happening right now. And I can remember that sometimes those would really pour guilt onto me. And shame that I caused that, and I didn't want to pressure him into doing anything until he was ready. So what, when one spouse has to say whoa, 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 and hits the brakes, what can they do that is honoring to both partners? I love that you said, say pray with me, but what are some ways that we can honor each other in those moments?
That's so good, Heather. I just love your authentic heart in that, and being able to just be so honest. So often we think of scriptures and things that apply outside the bedroom, and we forget to bring them into the bedroom with us and going, "Oh,
like
wait a minute,
that's separate.
We can use that." That we can use that here. But I think again, these should be things that are discussed outside the bedroom. Over coffee, sometime over breakfast, sitting somewhere and going, can we just talk about our intimacy a little bit? And what can we do to make sure that we don't have another night like we had the other night?
Right.
Or being able to claim, we've had some rough times in the bedroom. What did you need differently from me? And so I think those kind of conversations, it's like we see on the news all the time when there's going to be a hurricane or flooding or tornadoes or something, and we don't go, man, we can't do anything about that. We prepare for it. We know we can't keep it from coming, but we can be prepared for it.
That's right.
And that's what I want couples to think about is we need to have dialogue about how we want to be prepared to go in these situations. And just like most couples walk through we're going to this party. What do we want to do with our triggers if either of us get triggered? What are our code words? How do we communicate? We're going to the beach on the holidays. How do we want to do triggers? We need to know that if we're going to try an intimate encounter, we're likely to have some triggers. Babe, what do you need from me if you get triggered? Well, but here's some of the things that I'm aware of that I need from you. And we're in this together. I sometimes get couples to find, we want to stop and pause, and we don't have to, we also want to be able to do that in a calm way. Babe, I need you to stop. And maybe it's stopping with a certain touch, or maybe it's stopping with certain motions or sounds, to be able to say, I just need us to pause. Having eye contact, being willing to look at each other. Being able to sit up and each of you put your hand on each other's heart and then go, I've got you, babe. I'm in this with you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not mad. I want this to be a good evening for both of us.
And one of the things that I really like, Debbie, what you said was I'm not mad. Yeah. Like, I think Heather and I have put that in our vocabulary probably more and more as the years have gone by. Just even, and I wouldn't even, not necessarily in a sexual, environment, but even just in communication, where it's just like, hey, I just want you to know I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Those kind of things, and then it just calms, it just sets the temperature in a different way. So I love that you said that. And you've already sort of kind of moved into what I was going to ask next. And so you may have really already answered it in some ways, but like the non-sexual connection that kind of supports healing, moving towards sexual healing, like, are there any other practical exercises? I feel like you said just being prepared and talking about it and being willing to go in those, real transparent places and talk through things. But anything else that's like a practical exercise that couples can do just to rebuild the closeness and the safety that's non-sexual connection?
Yes. I often want couples to work on this again outside the bedroom and practice things outside the bedroom so they know that they can show up with them inside the bedroom. And so something that I think is important for us to remember, anything that we do for trying to collectively regulate ourselves, what we're wanting to recreate in our coupleship and in our relationship is to learn how to co-regulate with each other. And, co-regulation is about connection. And so if couples can even just pause in the moment like that and maybe sit up and put their hand on each other's hearts and take, like 3 to 5 deep breaths together. Let's just anchor in, babe. And so take deep breaths, eye-to-eye contact. Eye-to-eye contact is intimate. My hand's on your heart. You can trust me with your heart. It could represent, I've got your heart. I can trust you with my heart. Take deep breaths and regulate. And then deciding, do we want to continue with this or do we need to stop? And respect whatever the person who is triggered, respect what the triggered person has to say. Babe, I think I need us to stop. And then, so maybe it's cuddling them together instead of trying to continue on with a sexual episode or an encounter. But our encounter can be that we're just going to lay here and have deep breaths together. Reminding, I love you. I'm in this with you. Some of this is still difficult for me.
Yeah,
being able to be reflective.
yeah, that's really, really good. I can remember, just to put kind of a personal touch here. I can remember us gently trying to get back into that rhythm, like just first just snuggling together, and that was hard. I mean, like I can remember the first time he held my hand afterwards.
Yeah.
It was a powerful moment of we will be able to connect again. But just, hand holding and then cuddling, like you said, just being on the sofa together and watching a movie while being together. It was
Right.
a gradual. And then I remember the first time, we kissed and after betrayal, and and that feeling different and new, and just like, I can't believe
Right.
I have this back, like he's
Right.
finally allowing us to kiss or to hold hands or whatever. But then there's just that big jump, I think, between
Sure.
kissing
Sure.
and then being, having intercourse together is just
Right.
such a big jump. And so
It is.
that's where the tension happened. And I can remember the first time we were able to be intimate together in that way, we had worship music blaring like so loud. It was like we were chasing the enemy from that room. And it was like, we
Right.
will consider this an act of worship. And
Right.
and so I wish we had had those tools of, touching each other's chest and feeling each other's heartbeats and just reconnecting in that way. So those are just such powerful words that you've spoken.
So
Well, and
go ahead.
Heather, excuse.
Keep
Well,
going.
Heather,
Keep going.
again, I was just going to respond to that. There's so much prep that it can be done for couples before they even get to a place of being able to have a sexual encounter
Right.
together. And one of my favorite resources that I use a lot is the Couple's Guide to Intimacy by Bill and Ginger Burkall. And it really is a book about betrayal, whether it's through infidelity or addiction. And they walk couples through exercises that start, more platonic and touching, and then become, they're about talking, teaching, and touching. And that we're always teaching one another, but we teach one another through often talking about the things and learning how to communicate. And then we need to also teach one another by touch. And it's a great book. Anybody can get it. What I have found that many couples, they'll read the first 7 chapters, and then when it gets to the exercises, they just get stuck and they don't know how to go forward. And that's often where a sex therapist is really handy to have, that I'm able to help guide couples through those.
Right.
But it is made available to all couples. It's a book that they can order. And just learning how to begin the more gradual steps before the more sensual and erotic steps.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to mention something really, really difficult. This is probably the hardest thing that a therapist has to deal with couples, is before any sort of sexual connection, both parties have to be willing to go get tested for STDs or STIs, whichever you want to call them, because we want to create the atmosphere that we're safe for both of us.
Yeah.
And really, before any kind of encounter, that has to happen.
Yeah.
That's really good that you mentioned that, because people don't think of, look, let's be real. Nobody in marriage dreams of or thinks that this type of betrayal or trauma is going to happen. And so, to be real honest, we don't know how. We don't even know what steps to take. We don't know what to do to even, take those first steps. And that's a great point, is just to think through the things that are painful to think about. And we need to do these things for safety. But so this is, as we're talking, I think about if I'm just sitting down at the table with you and I'm thinking back on what happened, and the steps we took, I would ask you so many questions and like, how did, what did we do wrong? What did we do right? All those kind of things. And one of the things that I think that people, just in us working with people, I think that they would ask is something like this. So when Heather and I, when she first confessed, we started this journey of healing, but we had no idea what we were doing. And we've said so many times that we feel like God kind of orchestrated our steps. It was for us, but it was also because he knew we were going to one day be able to have this sort of a roadmap that we could share with other people. And it wasn't really that we found a book that we just said, let's follow these steps. It was like God was really guiding us. But we didn't do it all. We didn't do it all right. That's for sure. And so some of those mistakes are the things that we can share with other people. But when we first started, we started going on these long walks together and talking a lot. And we would come back from those talks, and this was literally days after everything happened. And because we had all of a sudden become so vulnerable and so open, and we were communicating an emotional connection, we would get home and there would be this physical attraction to each other. But we were scared to death because we were like, whoa, I don't think
we're supposed
I
to
don't
do
think
this.
it's supposed to be like this. And so we would stop. We would. And it was usually me. I would be like, no, I'm not ready for this. But then there's people that are on the opposite end of that go, we've had people sit down with us and say, oh no, ever since I found out, we have just made it a point to be,
we do it every night,
do it all
and
the time.
I'm going to make him forget her.
Yes, I'm going to prove it to, and so then there's that, and we're like, whoa, well, is that healthy? We don't, and I think people just don't know. They don't know. They don't know how long should we wait or what's healthy. And so I don't know, when you hear those two extremes, like what do you usually recommend to people?
Yeah. Well, again, I love that y'all are just so honest with your story. And Rusty, none of us do anything always right?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, all of us have to go back and go, man, if I'd only known then what I know now. But I do love this too. It's also awareness that the way that God is going to work in one couple's life is not always going to be representative of what it's going to look like in everybody else's life. And what we want to make sure, I think, is two things. We want to make sure that what we are doing is healthy for self and healthy for other. That we got to think of the you and the me and the us and the relationship. And then we never want fear to be the guide either way. Like we don't want, I'm coming together out of fear that if I don't, he or she'll cheat again. So I have to do this and I'm going to do it every day, And we don't want fear of, oh my gosh, I've been betrayed. This hurts so bad. I don't know that I can. So I just fear so much being hurt again. If we ever let fear be the guide, it's usually not going to be healthy choices. And so I think certainly recognizing that we want to create safety and we want to create connection. And so couples learning and having guidance about what is it that I'm needing to feel safe with you. And I want to feel that I can share that with you. And then even the betrayed spouse has to have a commitment of, I've got to remain safe for you. But if God's forgiven you, I can't keep beating you up. I can't keep bringing to you what it is that God's forgiven. And so I think we both have to, both the betrayed party and the betraying party has to be willing to have that commitment of, I want to be God-led and my actions be Christ-like with you and not fear-led.
That's good.
So
that is really, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and then thank God there are some things that we can use in guidance that help us. Okay, but what does Christ-likeness look like here? And I think we can unpack some of those specifics in a little bit, but.
Yeah.
I would love to do that.
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, and in fact, if you just want to slide right into that real quick, that would be great. I mean, we're kind of on that subject, so yeah. Do you?
Yeah.
So
I just think that we have so much more to talk about.
Okay.
So, what do you think about us making this 2 episodes?
Okay,
Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you always have to ask permission.
no, that's good. That's good. So
Oh, you bet.
so yeah, I think that would be really good. That if we could just for a second, we'll just hit pause
Yep.
on this conversation,
Yep.
and then we'll just we'll let our
Pick up in just a minute.
Yeah, we'll just pick it back up, but we'll let our listeners pick back up next week.
Yes.
So don't, hey, you just pause, everybody, because we're going to come right back and we're going to keep talking with Debbie. So
Yes.
thanks again for listening this week, guys, and we'll see you next
Next time. Peace.